information, Mike. Wind at 320 degrees at 6, temperature 53, altimeter 3000.
People like you, organizations like Raincheck, I love you guys.
4, 5, 6, gotta be down, ready now.
You are clear for takeoff runway 21 left. Winds are calm. Stand by for the retrans on uniform. It's showtime.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Ramp Check podcast. And I'm going to call this a special edition of the Ramp Check podcast because we have a very special guest standing by today. But in the meantime, I'm Tony Rumfollow.
I'm Aaron Rumfollow.
Hey, it's Ryan Rumfollow.
And as we mentioned, and I'm not going to waste time here because we know your time is very valuable, but we want to introduce a very cool individual as our guest today. He's a film and TV producer. He's got some productions going on right now. We'll talk about those here in a moment. Radio and TV talk show host. He has consulted and filled in for some of the largest names that you may know in talk radio, and the first civilian to fly and film aboard a B-2 Spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to announce, or welcome, I guess, anyway, Jeff Bolton. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm great, fellas. It's great to be with you. We've got to talk a little bit before. I'm a, forgive me, I got a little bit of a frog in my throat. I'm a Ramp Check fan. I keep the tab open so that I can get my geek on, get my aviation news on, so I don't have to track everything down like I used to. So I'm a big fan. I dig the swag too. So I'll have to go online and order some stuff from you.
Well, we'll be sending you some swag of your choice.
Yeah, we'll hook you up.
Yeah, definitely.
No problem.
So Jeff, we could talk all day with you, obviously, and I don't know how much time you've got at this point, but let's go ahead and kind of just dive in. Give us an idea of how this whole aviation journey started for you.
I was typical kid, 70s in the old school swing sets. The old ones you can't have anymore that I fully intend, if I ever get grandkids, to install in my backyard. Chains
Right.
and metal that'll burn you and rubber straps,
Yeah.
I was coming out of those things like that because I wanted to be a Blue Angel, right?
There you go.
Who didn't want to be a Blue Angel then and now?
Yeah.
And I was enamored. Unfortunately, I was enamored, but I wasn't good enough. I wasn't good enough at math or geometry. If they had told me you could shoot missiles at somebody, maybe I'd have paid attention in geometry, but I didn't. And man, long story short, I've had this lifelong love of aviation, but I didn't get a chance to fulfill my dream to be a fighter pilot by serving in the military. But through a really odd confluence of events over the last 20 years, I've gotten to fulfill my dream and many, many more of being a fighter pilot by telling their stories and telling the stories of young men and women in the dirt and rat holes in Afghanistan and Iraq and all over the planet. So, but the aviation side of it to me, as it is to you guys, I'm still at 55, just completely enamored. I stayed up last night, as a matter of fact, an hour and a half later than I should have, watching the Blue Angels video I'd never seen. So,
Nice.
the love of aviation and particularly our military aviators never ceases to fascinate me.
That's
Wow.
great. So you've had many opportunities to go up in the jet. In fact, not the jet, many jets. How did your first experience come about? And tell us about that a little bit.
First time I flew, so again, going from a kid at dreaming as a child and then realizing that even though I had a chance to go to all of the academies to play sports and to play football, I didn't. And my dad actually sat me down and he said, "Son, you're not ready for that." And he was right. I was a little angry at him for a few years until I figured out the quality and character and smarts of the young men and women that go to our military academies. And I'm like, man, I had no business being there. There's no way I would have survived that. But somehow, and I can't tell you exactly how it works, but somehow I never lost the dream. I always believed someday I was going to get to fly in a tactical jet. And it was stupid. I mean, they don't fly civilians. It's just this total pipe dream. And at 35 years old, I'm sitting in the back of the Hornet, short, just at the hold short, and I keep waiting for the Humvee to pull up with securities forces and come and drag me out by the helmet and put an M4 in my back and march me off. And I'm like, they're not coming to get me. And when the guy that was flying the airplane, who was a Marine, his call sign was Giant. He was like 5'3".
Nice.
Giant says, "Hey, you're going to hear me talking to myself." He said, "So what's going to happen is," and again, I'm sitting in the back seat on top of two motors, and I'll tell you, that's kind of special.
Yeah. Oh, can only
You know what I'm
imagine.
saying? Yeah. It's it's kind of quivering. This is a G-rated show, but it's pretty special back there. So I'm quivering in more ways than one in the back seat. The Giant says, "Okay, look, I'm gonna push up the motors to mill power. I'm gonna be checking the gauges. You're gonna hear me talking. If I like the gauges, then I'm gonna light the cans." And he said, "When I light the cans, we're going flying. No matter what happens, when I light the cans, we are flying." And so, man, he pushed us into mill power, and I thought, this is pretty cool. And then he lit the cans, and I did the classic thing all the way back, and basically screamed all the way to 20,000 feet on a cold mic. I mean, just it was everything that I ever dreamed it would be and more. That's how it started. Wow. It ended something like this. It's coming to me. Did 2 back-to-back hops in the Hornet. I filled up 2 bags of puke after doing 7 Hornet high pops on the first one. Oh yeah.
Explain what the high pop is.
So, and again, I can't give you the full fighter pilot version because I might have had a cocktail since then. But 500 feet, 500 knots going into the target. You're going to drop iron bombs. These were practice bombs, the little blue ones. 500 feet, 500 knots, pitch up. I want to say to, 30 degrees maybe.
Wow.
Up to about 8,000. Chop the power, flip over, dump the nose, flip back over again, and now you're looking down on the target. Go down and drop it. I want to say 3,000. Pickle off. And then start doing SAM evade.
Wow.
So civilian for the first time in a tactical jet at 35 years of age. Was not ready for that. I made it through 7 of them before I said, "Hey, Giant, I'm going to need straight and level for a second." And he had warned me. He said, "Dude, I'm just telling you, it's going to be rough back there." Because I had a heavy, I had a Nikon camera. And he just said, "You're gonna be a mess back there. It's okay." He said, "If you need anything, you tell me. If I need to give you some time, you tell me." And he had told me, "Hey, when you're getting dizzy and all that, look at the moving map. There's a center point on the moving map. Get your head out of the cotton, out of the sky and down." And nothing worked. Nothing. Seven pops later, I said, "Hey, John, I want to need straight and level." Dude, I threw up stuff I ate in the 4th grade. I mean, old gum. It was just brutal back there.
Imagine it cleaned you out.
It did. So I wipe my face off and I get my mask back on, and I managed to keep it in 2 bags, which is my first and temporary call sign was 2 bags, and I got it down into my G suit, and I said, "Okay, I'm good." And he goes, "All right." We go back in, drop the last bomb, go to Savannah, get gas. I come out of the jet. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, kid." And went in, had a bottle of water, and got back in the jet, did it all over again. So I got we were probably a 3.0 that day. Hot, 100 degrees in the summer in South Carolina. So tanked off an Iron Maiden. It's spectacular, amazing experience. And of course, I felt like I'd gone 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. It's freaking brutal, just brutal.
Wow.
So how soon were you ready to go up and do it again?
When I found my balance, eventually. 8 beers later, I'm ready.
Oh yeah,
do it. So Yeah, I ended up that night going to a change of command, and I'm embarrassed to say that I'm not. I don't think I'm Irish, but I don't think I'm an alcoholic. but that night, 8 beers it took me to get straight and level again. My head, my inner ear, my guts, everything else. After 8, I could stand straight without weaving or wobbling or doing the Weeble thing.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to go do it all over again. So it ended up that Otter Jarmulowicz was a MAG commander. He was with a big red mustache, central casting fighter pilot. And he's got a cocktail in his car. He goes, I heard you survived today. He said, you got to go to the boat. And he made a drug deal right on the spot. He called over the 2-seat squadron, 332 squadron CO, and he called over VMA 251, the Thunderbolts skipper over, and he goes, hack each other a jet. You got to get him to the boat. So months and months and months later, I find myself as a sack of potatoes in the back of the Hornet, after passing Navy water survival, and went through all that and had to learn to swim before I went.
You didn't know how to swim before.
It was awful. It was
My God.
it was the worst thing ever. A friend of mine that served in the unit you've heard of in the Navy that does swimming for a living said I look like the only human being he's ever met that swims backward and forward at the same time. Anyway, I survived Navy water struggle. So I've actually got an upshit so I can find any jet proper helo in the Navy or Marine Corps. So
wow.
Now I've got to update it if I'm going to go back to sea. Yeah. So.
Well, one hell of a motivation to learn how to swim.
Yeah, it was, because I was a kid that pushed in the pool and hated it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I learned. Yeah, I learned, man. And what a blessing it's been, because got to tell the stories of a lot of spectacular Americans since that time. So I feel like I've gotten far more than I've given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the cool thing about what you do and everything that you put together, showing telling the stories and showing the stories in video or photos of all of our American, men and women in the military and how important their role is in all of our lives, protecting us, keeping us safe, giving our freedoms. And by you having that unique perspective where you can just focus on bringing that story to everybody, and you're not so laser focused on flying the jet or one particular task. You can just absorb it all and just tell the story.
Yeah, and that's been my approach. You learn how to do this stuff after a while, and you want to comport well. You want to be that guy that gets invited back or invited to do something for the first time, like the stealth bomber flight. And so it is about them. Yeah. There's been some good deals along the way that I treasure. I'm in my office. You guys can see behind me. I've got my friends who abuse me unmercifully call it the museum to me, because there's stuff. There's stuff everywhere from 20 years of embedding it all over the world in the military, and a fighter gift from the B-52 guys that was a dude in the squadron who they got rid of. So they didn't have a mug for me, so they gave me his mug. I won't show you his call sign so he doesn't get ratted out here. But, flying the Viper in San Antonio, this stuff just is at my desk, right?
That's cool.
But artifacts. Okay, you guys know what that is, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a telehook.
It's a hook point.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a hook point from an F-18. This one's cleaned up. It's been really clean. I've got one that's nasty that came right off the jet that was gifted to me. That's what I mean. These are some of the things that are a byproduct of it. But getting to tell the stories of these people is the whole thing, because they are amazing. They are truly amazing.
That is awesome. Boy, I'd pay the admission to go into the museum of me. That looks pretty badass.
It's pretty fun. It's basically what it is. In full disclosure, is my wife going, "Hey, get your junk out of the house. Get your junk out of the house. I'm tired of seeing all your junk." I have no bigger supporter, but she's not a dude.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah,
quite
she's-
understand the
Get all
Avgate
that
collection.
stuff in. Yeah, get all that stuff in there and get it out of our house. So.
Yeah, right.
It's been a great life. It
Mhm.
truly has, and it's been an honor to get to tell a lot of these stories, whether it's the America's Marine Aviators film, or just did it, a whole bunch of stuff on the B52 communities.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love them. God help me. I love them. I love telling their stories, and I love being around them.
So,
Well, yeah, go ahead,
Ryan.
Ryan. Go
I
ahead.
was going to ask about the B2 if now's a good time.
Yeah.
So, speaking of, what you do and the stories you tell, it's kind of funny. I sit here and I listen to your stories, and we're talking to you and what you've done. And even when I read your bio, and you seem like a celebrity to me, because I'm like, all the stuff you've been able to do, I'm just like, wow, I'm dumbfounded. And so I appreciate what you do. From my aspect, I'm just the youngest of the three brothers who's kind of along for the ride. I point to every airplane in the sky, identify it. I know my stuff. Aaron's
I
a
still do
photographer.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I still do it. Yeah.
So, good. Aaron's a photographer, a lot more artistic. Tony served in the military, all that. And I worked around, in aviation for 16 years. But the point I'm trying to get across is I'm grateful for what you do, and thank you. It makes, what I do feel all that much more better. Like the knowledge I can get from you and the experiences. I love it. So now that I got that out of the way.
Thank you. I thank you for that. I mean, sincerely, and I'll just tell you that, man, if you dudes were in my office right now, or we lived in the same town, we'd be hanging out together.
Yeah.
I'm a normal stiff, man. I truly am. I'm not anything other than humbled at the opportunities that I get. They're no fun if you don't share them, number one. Number two,
right.
I'm not the object of them. I'm in some ways the beneficiary of the experience, but it's for the purpose of being able to tell the stories. I don't ever want to be that guy. And we all know who they are, who's slightly prickish because they get to do cool things, and they're not approachable, and they're not relatable. And and I'll tell you, this is one little story as a byproduct. In a lot of my years of writing, I've gotten to also drive a lot of spectacular cars, supercars, and they too are no fun if you don't share them. And I had a chance to drive the Bugatti Veyron, and the guy's like, "What do you want to do?" Well, everybody wants to go out and go, 270 miles an hour, which you can't do. And I said, you know what I would really, really, really love to do? I said, if you're okay with it, I would love to take this car to my kid's school. And so what I did is I made a deal with my son that if everything worked out, car didn't break, to keep his phone with him, which wasn't legal in his school. I said, get permission from your instructors. He was in the 9th grade. And I said, get permission. And if it happens, I'm going to pull up in front of the school. So I pull up in front of the school, and I text him in the bug, myself and the factory pilot. And the factory pilot had the biggest smile on his face. He goes, I've never done this. He said, everybody that drives this car wants to go raging around. And he said, I so appreciate, he said, I have kids too. I so appreciate that you want to do this. So we look up, and there's like 8 doors wide. And at one moment, it's like in The Mummy. Remember when the bugs come out?
Oh, yeah.
The doors just fly open, and rah, they come out. It's like a pep rally. They're screaming and hollering. And we sat there for 30 minutes and cycled those kids in the car so they could take pictures of them.
Oh my gosh.
Flying the B2 or flying the Viper like I did a couple months ago, it's the same thing, man. I want everybody to be able to experience it in full. I was just a fortunate dude that got to do it.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, we're honored. I mean, this is
for
great being able to record with you and hear these experiences firsthand. Amazing.
So I've got to know, and I'm sure this is a story you probably tell often, but how did you come about getting that opportunity to fly in the B2?
So I'll give you the condensed version because it's a lot longer and more painful than you would want to hear.
Okay, all right.
One of the things that is interesting about this business is reputation is everything. It's no different than the JSOC guys, special ops dudes. Your reputation and how you comport is everything. You just don't get a second chance if you screw the pooch. And so I've tried very, very hard, not always succeeding, because you're going to have personality conflicts from time to time with people, and there's people that you just rub wrong or they just rub you wrong.
Sure.
I had a flight surgeon one time, who shall remain unnamed, who is of the other species, who was very angry that I was getting to fly a jet, and that her husband, who was training to be a fighter pilot, didn't get more time in the jet, and I was getting to fly it. And she almost grounded me
Really?
over something that was a non-issue.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can run into some stuff from time to time, but that's by far the exception. 99.9% of the time, you're dealing with good people that are there to support you, because I'm there to tell their stories. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not some
Yeah.
jackass looking for, golden hammers or something.
Sure.
I'm there to try to bring to the world what they do. So in the case of the B2, I started working on a project called Guardians. And Guardians, it tells the story, or will tell the story, in a television series, an 8-part television series, about our nuclear forces. It's as if everybody forgot we're still in that business after we won the Cold War. But we're not. We're still very much engaged. And now, after 20 years of playing whack-a-mole with terrorists, and 30 years after the end of the Cold War, we've woken up to what's being called a new nation state, or great power competition. Now, I don't think the Chinese are anywhere close to approaching being a great power yet. Neither are the Russians. But they're close enough, and given the nuclear weapons that they have, we can't afford not to do that mission. And so it's a very difficult and esoteric subject, and that's why it fascinates me so much.
Yeah.
You can't, it's inconceivable that we have thousands of warheads with the capacity to end the world many, many, many times over. And yet, when they say peace is our profession, they mean it. These very same people are the people that'll turn both keys and let the missiles fly. So it gets into everything that I love about our nation and about our military, and that is, how do you find people to do that? I mean, who sits in a missile silo in fuzzy slippers, and they do wear fuzzy slippers? Who sits in a missile silo in fuzzy slippers and ends the world?
Yeah.
So I wanted to tell the story. Well, to do that, I needed to fly all the weapons systems, and so it started with an effort to fly the B2 as a civilian and film aboard. No one in history, civilian or military, has ever taken a camera aboard in flight. There were some shots. There's one or two unofficial shots floating around out there that were kind of taken from in between the seats in the early days, like in the late 80s. I've got a couple of black and white photographs that were taken when it was kind of steam gagey, still looking a lot like the B-52 looks today.
Yeah. Which is crazy to think, like, this stealth bomber having gauges like that, but we have to remember how long ago it was designed.
Right.
Yeah. So that was, again, it was so audacious. But I'm also a believer, and the good Lord says you have not because you ask not. And so I asked, and it took years, and it took the right people being in the right place at the right time to be able to influence it. And the other thing I think that came out of that's way more important than me getting to do it is I was able to do something of value to them. And that is, they take pilots from all over the community, right? They'll take pilots from the guy I flew with, Wolf Anderson. He was a C-17 guy. They take students that are graduating from UPT now. They even get one or two that are coming straight out of pilot school now. So children, babies, they're barely shaved yet. And it's like the old days in World War II. You got these youngsters coming out, and male and female, to fly the jet. So what I was able to do that day in the airplane was film a tanking evolution. They did not have a video or photographs or anything to tell these up and coming pilots. They've never had one. I was the 691st person to fly the jet. And before that, they didn't have anything other to do than put them in a simulator, which is not a very good representation of tanking.
Right.
That's all they had. So I was able to shoot one of those, and they're using it as a training aid now.
Oh,
and
that's great.
I'm proud of that, because I wanted to do something useful and not just go, hey, I'm a chucklehead. So that's how that started. Then I flew a B-52 full up nuclear training mission with those dudes. They simulated the release of 20 Alchems. Let me tell you something, boys. You want to talk about sobering. Seeing the dude hit the launch button, it says nuclear, hit the launch button 20 times and getting that on film. That was like, hair standing up. And it happens today. This was an accident, I promise you. I was in a hurry this morning. I grabbed a t-shirt, threw on some shorts because I work for myself. I could be a slob, but I happened to put this on this morning. It's not showing you my breasts. That's actually the.
Is it cold where you're at?
The devil's zone. Oh, Tokyo. Yeah. So, and then I went up and flew with the KC-135 guys. And so the hope is that we've got about half that series in the can. The hope is that we'll get that sold off to probably one of the streamers. They all are needing content now because everything out there is being streamed during COVID. So that's how the genesis of that B2 thing started. Really started in 2014. And so it took almost 5 years.
Wow. That's just amazing. I mean, I've seen the B2 fly, I think, twice. I mean, so to think in my 40 years of existence, I've only seen that aircraft fly twice, and here we're talking to someone that's actually flown on it. So super jealous, but super awesome that it's you and that you're the one that can tell the story, because it makes it
and I'll share, if you'd like me to, I'll tell you a couple of things about it that were
absolutely
kind of mind-bending, otherworldly things to me. The first one sounds like I'm being funny, and I'm not. This is really, really true. So think about when it was designed, when Star Wars, was a big deal. When you're sitting, I was in the right seat, and the pilot was obviously, he's a single seat guy, because they've flown people that don't. I know enough to be dangerous, of course, in the right seat, but he's in essence operating the entire aircraft by himself. And he was so busy coordinating with the other B2s we were flying with, and with the tanker, and with the T-38s that were flying photo chase for us, that he was going between two radios. And I looked over at him and I said, Wolf, and he goes, yeah, man. I said, you want me to just take the airplane? And he goes, oh, holy cow. Yeah. Okay. Your jet. and so, so I ended up flying the airplane a lot. And it was, so I wasn't just getting to be a sack of potatoes, to hold a course and keep an altitude and keep speed. And the thing about the B2, one of the many gazillion cool things about it is that it has autopilot, but not auto throttles. You've got to fly the throttles. So for those dudes, and I later went back and flew a 24-hour mission in the right seat in the simulator. They make all their weapons school graduates do that. And they allowed me to come and do it. So I flew a full up 24 hours in there, didn't leave the cockpit, did just what they had to do, went and bombed. God, it's a great story. Flew to a fictitious country and killed a bunch of bad guys by dropping 80 bombs on them, 8,500 pounders. Had to hand punch in every one of them because we were presuming we were GPS denied. So I had to lat long those bombs in by hand in batches. But when you're sitting inside and flying, so you look out and it looks just like you're looking out of Darth Vader's helmet.
Wow, that's cool.
You feel like Vader, man. I'm not kidding you. And I'm not trying to reduce this to comedy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, man. You feel like Darth freaking Vader in that thing.
Yeah.
Well, if there's any jet out there that looks like it would be Darth Vader's, also,
that'd be Vader's jet.
That one, right?
That's one thing that's insane about it. One of the other things, back to the trust issue, is they did not tell me what to film. But I've been around enough, and so once I crawled up the ladder and I stood on the deck that's behind the seats, you actually, the ladder's sideways, right behind the gear, right behind the nose gear, so that you walk to the jet, you turn right behind the nose gear, and there's a ladder. So you go up the ladder. Well, what I can tell you, because it's public knowledge, is that when you go up that ladder, there's a room back there that's just all computers. It's floor to ceiling. It looks like a server room. Literally looks like a server room, because you've got, I don't remember what the current number is, but some ridiculous number of computers on the jet. Then you turn left and you step through a little hatchway, and you see both seats. You step over the console and grab a towel rack, and then just put yourself down in your seat. And of course, you've got rails on the ejection seats, that are going up to the ceiling behind you. They're quite long. On the 24-hour mission, you use them to stretch. Got out to have a bite to eat, and just used them to do some stretch. I'm 6'4", 220. So quite a manly 6'4", and so you just for a while you get stove up sitting in the seat because you're sitting on an ejection seat. But the interesting thing was they didn't tell me what to shoot. But what I can tell you is I didn't want to be that guy that made their security people and the pilots themselves have to hack up that film.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff I looked at, and I've seen a lot of, and I'm not being bragging anyway, you just learn after a while. I've seen a lot of secret stuff in my career. A lot of stuff I probably wasn't supposed to see, and have shot some stuff I inadvertently shot and didn't know, but I submit what I do because I never want to be that guy. And believe me, I have no love for the Russians or the Chinese at all. Would be the last guy that want to show them anything that they're not supposed to see.
Sure.
So I'm very careful. The good news for me was 3 months later, I got 100% of the footage back that I shot.
Wow,
And,
that's awesome.
And I considered that to be the highest compliment that I could get. And in fact, one of the guys came back to me and said, I want you to know how much everybody appreciated that because you were extremely careful in where you focused and what you focused on and where you didn't go. The places in the jet, if we told you not to go, you didn't go anyway. And you stayed focused on things that you knew we could clear. So those are gifts. That's not a thing that anybody will mean anything else to anybody but me. Is to know that you were professional. The people that trusted you could rely on you. And I called one of the guys that was very influential in getting me in the airplane. I said, hey, I kept my word. I didn't screw the pooch. And I just want to let you know. I called him when I landed. This is crazy because we never get to do this stuff on video. You want to see some stuff?
Hell yeah.
Of course.
All right. I just happened to realize this because I'm going through stuff. I'm cleaning up my office, right? So I'm going to show you a couple of things.
Okay.
Since I can. This is the craziest thing ever. I can't believe I'm doing this. So this is what you hear about that everybody that gets to fly the airplane gets.
Okay.
Wow.
Can you see that clearly?
Yeah, there's a little bit of reflection, but we can see it. Yeah,
wow.
16 October 2018, Spirit of Kitty Hawk.
Dang, that's
Wow.
Yeah, 691. Notice it's a bird.
Yeah.
At first, I thought it was the B-2.
I know that's cool. So 691, and that in fact, the guys I talked to up there, if you fly it, they just refer to you by your number. They call you 691. So I was 691. So they gifted that to me when we landed. The hop was about 4 hours. But here's what I want you to see: security stuff, all kinds of stuff from the flight, from the brief. But this is, gosh, I can't believe it's the coolest thing ever. Okay, this is going to kill the bad guys.
Wow.
All right.
Awesome.
So going to kill the bad guys is a brief. So we talk about what the airplane holds. We talk about what we're going to do. And I'm just going to flip through a couple things and make you laugh because we were flying to kill the leader of the resistance in this fictional country. And there he is.
Nice.
Not kidding you. The Yukon Revolutionary Front, or YURF.
Yeah, that's
YURF.
Oh my gosh.
It's YURF that we went to kill, and I got to kill him. So listen to this. Listen to this. They were seeking the independence of Alaska and the Yukon Territory. Recent activities, including attacks on Alaskan and Canadian pipelines, hijackings, current intelligence, and then Prospect, who we were killing. Yukon Cornelius, Chief Operations Officer of YURF, notorious sweet tooth, responsible for several high-profile attacks to include the Anchorage Harbor incident, joined YURF in 2008 after Mounties raided his illegal peppermint mine.
I thought that was Cornelius from the old Rudolph.
So,
the Rudolph.
Oh my gosh.
mission overview. So we flew 24 hours, 12 out to go kill him, and 12 home, and tanked 2 or 3 times. I got to do that.
How many times did you refuel? Yeah.
Oh, you even got to do that. Wow.
Yeah. And we also came down through the Clag. I mean, we had, everything that we needed to fly the jet as if it was a full up mission. Also,
Jeez.
Last thing. Hold on one second, because I got to step out of my chair. Last thing.
No problem.
Go for it.
That's so cool. That's so funny. Yukon Cornelius. Ooh, we get the brown bag.
So I flew these on board.
Oh my.
Wow.
That is
That's cool.
Those are all B2 coins and flags that I flew.
Wow.
So that my intent is there's a couple of people I need to thank with them.
Mm-hmm.
But my intent is to get them all mounted one of these days and give them to charity. Let people raise money for charity.
Oh, that's amazing.
incredible.
So anyway, side note of us getting to be together on actual video is that was it.
That's cool.
Operation Yukon to go kill
Wow.
Yukon Cornelius.
That's awesome, man.
Crazy, man. Crazy,
So
crazy.
great.
And everybody says the Air Force doesn't have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
So much for that.
That just absolutely cements that they do. That's so cool how they can, integrate that into something so serious and so,
Yeah. It was a long
scenario.
a long day. I got to fly the airplane a lot. Last thing on the B2 that I think you guys would get a charge out of is that the day we flew the mission the day before in the sim before we did the actual flight. And so Wolf and I got in, and I unfortunately earned a call sign many, many years ago when I was flying with the Marines, making American Marine Aviators, and it's PITTA, P-I-T-T-A.
So
Stands for
two
pain in the
bags
T-ball's
didn't
ass.
stick for long?
It
Say
I was 2 bags, and then I was PITTA permanently. I've been PITTA for 20 years now, pain in the T-ball's ass, because we tortured those guys. Making the film, we had a junk in the ready room, our cameras, it was a nightmare for them. And so I've been PITTA for 20 years. So everybody knows me as PITTA. Those fighter pilots I know, I don't even know their names. It's just whatever, right? So Wolf Anderson was in the left seat, us in the right seat. He goes, "Hey, PITTA, why don't you land the airplane?" And I said, "Okay." He goes, I'll make some calls for you and dirty us up, but why don't you land the airplane?" So he had warned me. He said, "Look, when you get the mains down, you got to get the nose over." He said, "This thing it's just flies on a giant cushion of air, right? And so ground effect, it'll stay in ground effect down the whole friggin' runway if you don't get the nose down." And so we came, over the threshold, and I rolled out a little bit right of center line and evened up, and then it came down, got the mains down, and wasn't getting the nose down. He goes, "No, seriously, man, you better get the nose down. You won't get stopped in time." So I got the nose down, got on the binders, and turned off at the last taxiway. And he looks over at me. He's got kind of the sheepish grin on his face, and he goes, "Well, that's good news." And I kind of looked at him. I was kind of puzzled, like a typical dude, kind of puzzled. And he's like, "Well, if I eat the fish tomorrow and it all goes bad, at least you can get us safe on deck." And there's that moment from Airplane, from the movie Airplane, of course.
Perfect.
He's going to eat the fish. And it's in the jet. You guys know this already. It's one of two ways, man. You're either going to land the jet, or you're going to ride the rails and make international news. On that same trip, I did meet the pilot of the jet we lost in Guam, who ejected him, who punched them both out of the jet. Huge honor to meet him.
Wow.
Spectacular feat of aviation to have survived that and made the decision when he made it. Held the jet as long as he could, and then punched out at the instant that he had to when the jet could no longer be saved. Very, very impressive dude.
That video that you can see, I mean, he had split second, time to decide.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Super cool under pressure, and it was an honor, as it was an honor to meet all of them. It was an honor to meet him, not because he's the guy that ejected, but because you go, I want to know that my military pilots are that badass.
Yeah.
And, he was one of them.
Well
so
said.
he's still in the community, still flying the jet. In fact, he's got a pretty senior job. If he's not still there at this moment, he had a pretty senior job when I was up there with him. So the whole B2 thing was incredible. I got to meet with the low observable guys. The yellow guys, gave me a coin. Trying to see if it's over there.
You got a little bit of stuff to look through.
Yeah, to think about that. But anyway, it says on it, without LO, your ass will glow.
That's all.
They're very serious about that.
Yeah.
And one more technical thing that I think you'll appreciate. Again, this is open source. I'm not talking out of turn here.
Right.
2G max on the jet. Common sense tells you that you don't need that airplane flexing. I mean, you can roll it, you can roll out in it pretty aggressively, but don't do it past 2Gs. You know, you got coatings and edges and down there and surfaces and stuff that you do not want flexing. So
that makes sense.
2G max in the jet. So
Interesting.
amazing experience. And I had that moment of terror. You guys know the Alan Shepard prayer, right? Dear Lord,
Yep.
please don't.
Yeah.
Please
Don't
don't
let
let
me-
me. Yeah.
Yep.
So the camera equipment that I use belonged to them.
Okay.
And that was because it was from a generation, several generations old, where they trusted the chips. No Bluetooth, no comms capacity. And they gave me the bag, like straight out of the movies. They gave me the bag, and I went in the jet. When I came down out of the jet, they were standing there waiting. I handed the bag back over. It was the honor system. They didn't search me or anything like that. But you know, I made sure they had all the cards, and I literally prayed for 24 hours that everything functioned. Because can you imagine getting the chance to do that and screwing the pooch? I literally was on pins and needles for 24 hours.
I bet. Yeah.
And Wolf came to me the next day. He sent me a text. He goes, "Dude, the footage looks amazing, and the stills are great." And I'm like, I just collapsed into a puddle. Happy to be alive and not screwing the pooch.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of terror associated with it as well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Or if their equipment failed, you could, well, we just got to do this again. So
Yeah.
fire it up.
Oh, I'd walk back up there
That's awesome.
to go get to do it again.
Wow.
At the same time, you know, you don't want to be greedy,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I'd like to mount some cameras in there in a couple spots where they could be cleared, and maybe, you know, the good Lord says you have not because you ask not. So I'm not shy about asking.
Agreed.
So we have to ask you, do you already have your B-21 Raider flight scheduled?
Interesting you say that. I'm currently cooking up the drug deal to try to do that. So the answer is not yet,
Not yet. Okay.
but I'm working on it.
All
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. I've talked to guys, again, not speaking out of turn. I've talked to guys who've seen it, and I don't. Let me say this to you. I told you guys I'm a normal stiff. I don't have a security clearance.
Yeah.
I don't want a security clearance.
Mhm.
There is no value in me having a security clearance. Zero.
Right.
I'm a civilian. I'm a storyteller. I've been given secret briefs. I've seen secret briefs. I see a lot of secret stuff. Generally, people will say to me, "Hey, this is for your understanding, so you can tell the story better." So I'll see stuff, and they'll describe stuff or show me a brief, and go, "Okay, now it's okay that you saw it with permission, but you're done. All right, don't talk about this. Here's what you can and should talk about, so that you're not steering the conversation to stuff over here that you can't talk about." So that's my point. I would never want to betray our country's confidences in any way.
Right.
But so I've talked to guys that have seen it and have been on the flight deck, and they get dreamy eyed. They look like I looked the first time I looked at my wife. They get googly. It's going to be spectacular. It's going to be again a lot of publicly known stuff. One of the cool things is it's going to have a option, you know, to fly pilotless, right? So it'll be remote operated also.
Wow.
And it sounds like, if the intel that I'm seeing and hearing is right, it sounds like it's going to be the first iteration of what the B2 was. Because as you guys know, in the history of the B2, they went back and added the serrated edges for low-level penetration.
Right.
It was never initially designed that way. So it sounds like they're going back to the first iteration, which is slightly smaller, with a slightly smaller payload and a little bit of a cleaner wing form, and obviously new materials. So super excited to see the jet come on. I just hope we have the courage and the smarts to buy it in the numbers that we need it, because our bomber fleet is just a huge struggle right now.
Yeah.
Huge. To get X number of bombers, the classified number of bombers that we could send to war at any given moment is shockingly small.
Yeah.
And we need more airframes. Bottom line, we've got to have.
Well, and with so many B1s, prepping to retire by the end of next year because of how hard they've used them, in the what did you say, whack-a-mole or something?
Well,
War
yeah,
on whack-a-mole campaign.
20 years of whack-a-mole with terrorists. We've used the bone, a lot because it's fantastic in doing close air support.
Yeah.
But the airplanes are exhausted, and you can tell. And they've gotten a bunch of upgrades over the years, so it's not as if that they're incapable. But at some point, as it was with the SR-71, you have to trade off capability, vice operating costs. Of course, we had all the money in the world to keep the SR-71 operating. NASA, I think, flew them for another 10 years or so after they were officially retired from the Air Force. But we need the airframes, man. If it's anything that our pilots are screaming for, it's airframes and more hours to fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always the thing that frustrated me with the decision to cut the F-22 line so early.
Oh, man.
I mean, we definitely needed more.
Boys, dumber than a bag of hammers. We should have never done that. I had the opportunity to fight against Raptors and be Raptor bait several months ago. I was up with the 18th Aggressors up at Alson, flying the Viper, and got to go get a 1.5 full up fight up there in 15 below weather. It's a 55-year-old dude getting my fighter pilot on, like a 5-year-old in the back seat, cheering, get him, just loaded for bear. And the Raptor story for you. Pilot who's on the airplane, his call sign's CASA, C-A-S-A, Academy grad, just as they all are, just extremely impressive. And he forgets I'm in the back seat, and we're doing G-warm and some other stuff. And he goes, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't even tell you we were going to do that." And so I'm kind of peeling myself off my seat, and we ended up doing, I think it was 3 setups, I think, against the Raptors that had flown up from Jaber. So we kind of met in a range in the middle, and you never see them. You never see the Raptors. And so I want to say we were at 25,000, and CASA, not CASA, was it CASA? Who said it? No, it wasn't CASA. It'll come to me in a minute. But he goes, "Oh, wow, that's cool." And he goes, "You see the Raptors?" And I literally looked up, straight up through the canopy, and I saw 2 fish hooks. So they were up at some classified, altitude. Yeah. Call it 50 grand, way up there. But they had gone, just that briefly had made contrails. And we saw them fish hook back, two ship fish hook back, and then they shot us again and again. And again. And again. And then we never saw them except for that. Yeah. And then we did another setup with one of the Vipers and got to fight. So 55-year-old dude getting to do that. I got out of the jet, sweaty, soaked to the bone, ball sweat mess. And the pilot that flew the airplane looked over at me. We were both shivering when we came out of the hangar trying to get back to the ready room. And he goes, "Dude, I got mad respect for you, PITTA. Hour and a half back there, full up fighting." He goes, "I hope I can do it when I'm your age." I doubt it because my back and neck will be destroyed. But he goes, "Good on you, man, for staying full up in the fight." And I'm like, "No, man, it was my honor to get to do it." So, but the Raptors, we should have never stopped building Raptors. They're still just an absolute act of insanity.
That's actually probably the best way I've ever heard it put.
Oh, yeah.
So can't see them. Yeah. Can't shoot them. You just show up to the fight, take off, and they're like, "You're dead."
Yeah. You can hear them laughing at you, right?
Oh, yeah, they're not shy. Yeah. They're not shy at all. But it's funny. It's funny because obviously the aggressor guys have got some stuff hanging off the jets to help. And so and you got some old guys, you got some old aggressors too. And they've been doing it for a year. They are cagey and crafty in every meaningful way. So they do everything they possibly can to make it hard on them. But the F-22 is just an amazing, amazing airplane. No 2-seaters though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know,
that's
unfortunately.
same thing with the F-35.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yep.
more disappointed than me, brother.
Yeah.
Believe me,
I'm sure.
I hear you. But I gotta find another way to tell their stories instead. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna figure that out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I know you're kind of limited on time today, and we really appreciate you taking time to tell us a few stories. So, are you up for getting together again for round 2 of this?
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys want to reset, and I'm so happy to get to do this because this, we're all so busy and in a non-COVID world, it's hard to slow down because I love to share these stories with people. They're no fun if you don't get to share them. And so I'm just really happy, and I told you I'm a fan of you guys anyway. And so to get to do this for me is awesome. And it sounds like we're all kind of COVID hosed for another, I don't know, couple of weeks, month anyway.
Gosh, I know.
My deals are, I got to not run out of money. I'm an independent producer. And so I've got to, we've just tamped our expenses down, and we don't live extravagantly as it is. I mean, I've got a 10-year-old car and a 20-year-old car. I'm not a, not a scarf wearing, fighter pilot. I'm a family dude, 2 married kids. So we're really just, I'm just pushing through on my projects, but having the time to do this is great because this is great fun for me. And you guys are a lot of fun and very gracious. So I'm happy to do it. If you want to reset for sometime next week, or whatever works for you, man, just hit me. I've got a million more stories that I could tell you for sure.
Oh yeah. We want to hear them, and we want to hear about that really cool documentary film you did with the Marines too. So we'll have
I would love to tell you about that. Life altering in so many ways, and for a lot of people. And my preview for you for that one is that I had a crusty old Marine colonel come to me that watched that film, because it's not a blow 'em up film. It's a very emotional film. It's about families.
Yes.
And I wanted it to be about families. I wanted it to be about service and sacrifice and the part nobody sees. And I had a crusty old Marine that came to me. He was a fighter pilot, 20 years. And he was holding the film, a DVD of it. And he's like, you could see he had been moved to tears. And he's like, I just wanted to tell you, I could never tell my family what I did. I could never put into words what my life was or who I was. And I wasn't a good communicator, and I couldn't explain to my wife and children what I was doing. And he's like, now I can.
Yeah.
And so to have been able to do that for people that go, this is my life, this is my service, this is my gift to my family, my country, was an incredibly powerful experience. And that's stuff that drives me.
That's great.
Well, I was moved several times during, while I was watching the video. And every time it got me when the reactions of the families, seeing their fathers, their wives, their sons, daughters, husbands, whatever, seeing them, whether it's the infantry troops arriving on the helicopters or the actual aviators in their aircraft.
I bawl like a baby when I see that. I still do.
Yeah.
I bawl like a baby when I see that.
It's getting me right now.
Yeah, seeing that. And that's what these people are deserving of our trust. They're deserving of our respect, and they're deserving of the effort it takes to tell their stories. Because operating in the military as a civilian is not easy. And you just got to choose not to be killed. You got to choose to be Irish and keep fighting.
Right. So once again, the name of that is America's Marine Aviators. And
it's on
that
Prime.
Is available right now through Amazon Prime. If you haven't seen it yet, go catch it. And then we'll get some updates on your other projects, obviously, when we talk next. But how far away is your next project from us being able to see? And that's the
like all of us right now, of course.
That's War on Top of the World, right? Yeah.
Well, it should be War on Top of the World. It may be Guardians, a nuclear series we're doing, but it's just so hard to tell. There's a demand for the content, of course, because all the streamers are rolling through stuff. Right. But I have to get back flying again for no lack of a better description. And so, I don't know. Like I said, the challenge right now, and I say this is television. This is not people's lives. There's a lot of people suffering out there right now. And so I'm sensitive to that. And that human beings, our fellow Americans and people around the world, are suffering immensely right now. So I'm trying to be cautious and sensitive to how we re-engage.
Right.
You know, the 5-year-old that wanted then and now to be a fighter pilot wants to jump in and go alpha male and get inverted, but we're just going to have to be more cautious somehow and get stuff done. I have come up with a way to get Guardians finished without traveling or leaving. That's
Good.
what I'm hoping. I'm hoping at a minimum we can get that done. But man, you guys just tell me when you get back together again. This has been just huge fun.
You got it. So if someone wants to find out about your current and past projects, there's a great video on there as well. I want them to go to your website, Jeff Bolton.
Yeah, jeffbolton.org. That we do a lot of. I do a lot of different stuff. That's not a product of me being some sort of a genius. It's actually a product of ADD. I got 32 things that I do because that's what I need. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there. And also I will tell you, there's organizations on there, not-for-profits, military not-for-profits in particular, that help families that I support. I always steer people to that page because people, in my experience, they just want to help, but they don't quite know how. And it's hard to vet organizations somehow. So I've got some organizations on there that people can donate to that are not-for-profit that help military families that are vetted and super solid.
Perfect. All right. Well, Jeff, thank you once again for your time. Fascinating talking to you, and I cannot wait to get back together again and hear some more of your amazing stories.
Sounds good. We'll make it fighter pilot style next time. I'll do it outside from home with a cocktail and a cigar, and then it'll get really good.
All right. Perfect.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
All right, Jeff, have a wonderful time. I'm Tony Rumfalo.
Yeah, I'm Aaron Rumfalo.
I'm Ryan.
We've never done this on video, so I don't know how the hell to say goodbye.
Right.
I just need to chime in again and just say, really, it was an honor for us, Jeff. Really, I mean, to hear your stories and to hear your passion and to know why you do what you do. You know, it really is an honor, and it's moving. And you know, as an av geek my whole life, having this whole Ramp Check Global thing that we started really opens up these opportunities, and this is exactly why we do it. And we appreciate what you do and how you honor our military.
Yeah, and I told you guys, we sound like the Mutual Admiration Society, but it is true. I've got, if you could see my screen right now, I can take you to the tab that stays open, you know, so I can get on and make sure that I haven't missed anything. It just makes it easier for me because you guys do what you do. So, so keep up the good work, and we'll talk again next week and maybe tell some more stories about killing you know who.
Oh yes,
Sounds good.
Sounds great.
All right.
Okay,
All
guys.
right.
Thanks again.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Ramp Check podcast.
Peace out.
All right.